Francis Reaves, and Miami Community News and I are sort of trying to decide how many people are interested about seniors, where we're going. And I actually call them boomers now, or elders. I don't like seniors anymore. I think that's college and high school. But I'm the president of a company called Parent Your Parents. And I call us a one-stop shop service. By that, I mean anything that you have to do with anything that has to do with elders, we want you to call us. There's me, I'm a lawyer. There's Dr. Porphyry. She's our physician and reviews medical records. We have Dr. Rhonda Fuchs, who's a psychologist. And we have Dr. Rivka Caroline, who is our move manager and sort of the calming down person when you're moving your parents or you're moving yourself from the 5,000 square foot home to the 2,000 square foot apartment. So we have some really wonderful folks that work with me. But here's the real reason that we started, or I started, Parent Your Parents. Because look around you and guess what? There is no 501c3 for seniors. Are there 501c3 for people who are ill, or there 501c3s for children? In fact, if a child is found wandering the streets, he or she is taken to a hospital, they're treated, and then the Department of Children and Families, which I'm going to be calling DCF comes in and they take care of the child, try to A, find the parents, or B, find a foster home. If an elderly person is found wandering the streets, DCF is called again. They send them to a nursing home and hope that the nursing home makes the effort to find where these people lived before they were wandering the streets. In fact, today, BBC, British Broadcasting Company, had an article on how COVID has affected the children of the world. And I don't have to tell you, throughout the world, there are NGOs always trying to get them food, shelter, which is wonderful. It really is. But in this particular article, they were talking about the children starving, or the new phrase, food insecurity. And guess what? There are a lot of them, but no one is worried about the seniors throughout the world who are starving just the same. Not just starving, but during COVID, they have also been alone, not able to see people. We have no idea in many cases how they've even been treated. And so now you understand sort of how it kind of gets to me sometimes. But the reason I actually started this business is when I saw what happened to my own mother and father. This sort of came to light when mom turned 80 and dad was 86. The kids, there are three of us, the kids sort of understood that, you know, mom was having senior moments, things weren't going so well, but, you know, we sort of dealt with it and called them senior moments. But the day we took her skydiving for her 80th birthday present, well, that's the day we realized it was a little bit more than we thought it was. Because here's what happens. The whole family's together. We're celebrating mom. Everybody's having a great time. We surprise her with the fact that we're taking her skydiving. She was so excited. We get there. We put on our suits. We listen to the video. And if you go skydiving, the video actually tells you that there's a chance that you might have serious injuries or death. As if you have to tell someone jumping out of a plane at 15,000 feet that that's a possibility. But they do tell you that. Mom didn't care. She was happy, happy, happy. Family, family, family. So now here we are in the airplane. It was mother, me, and two of her grandchildren. So I'm right behind mom. And we're all sort of going up to the front where we jump. And then all of a sudden, everything stops. And mom was first. And there's kind of this sort of kerfuffle, like, what's going on? What's going on? And then boom, off she goes. And then I went So we all get to the bottom. We were all here to talk about it later. And mother was thrilled. She was so happy. Then we watch the video because, of course, we had a videographer. So here's what had happened. Mom, who I sometimes call Charlotte, the whole way up, the whole 15,000 feet up, she's like, oh, yeah, I was a flight attendant. Oh, yeah, this is nothing, blah, blah, blah. And in the video, they had stated that when you get to the door, look straight out. Don't look down, look straight out. So, mom, she gets to the door, and what does she do? She'd forgotten everything, right? So she looks straight down, and then she grabs a hold of the bars above the door. And the expression on her face, and I'm saying this nicely, is what the heck am I doing here? All of a sudden, you see in her face the fact that she didn't get onto this plane to jump out, but she did. And after that, she sort of came back to life. We had a great dinner, and it was a great 80th birthday party. But for me and my siblings, seeing that video, we understood that, even 15 minutes made a difference. And guess what? This is really not an unusual scenario. Mom and dad, now these are people who had lived all over the world and were respected members of their community. None of the three children lived in Houston, Texas, where they called home. I would fly in about once a month to check on them, and my brother would fly in about once a quarter. And we both knew Mom was slipping and kind of ignored it. Then finally, we realized the stress on Dad, so we got an aide to come in 2 or 3 hours at a time. But Dad still was losing weight. He lost up to about 20 pounds, just taking care, being very, very nervous about her. So fast forward to Dad's 90th birthday, and family members arrived from all over the United States. And it was a great 2-day event, and Mom bucked up. Everything was fabulous. And there we are at Sunday brunch at the house. And she kept asking these people who were her family and had been her family for over 50 years for a ride home, which would have been fine, except we were home. And my brother and I looked at each other, and we knew it was time to act. Well, and that's when it really gets hard. First of all, as a child of these people, you have to understand that they now need you. And that's, you might think it's easy, but it's not easy because these have been your caretakers. Then we had to tell Dad, you have a choice, Pop. Matt lives in Atlanta and I live in Miami. So you have to choose where you all are going to live. So we go through this. Dad chooses Atlanta. So I fly up to Atlanta, and Matt and I fly Dad in. We choose a place for everybody where they can move in. Everybody seems happy. There were happy hours there. So I knew I was going to be happy. And Mom and Dad move in. And it was immediately noticeable that Mom couldn't handle it. And at this point, we then find out that Mother had been beating our father, and now in this new home was doing it in front of other people. Now, part of that is because we moved her, and because she had a dementia, things are, they don't like a new place. And so, she blamed Dad. Now, this now means that the assisted living center wants to put Mom in a memory care unit. And because Mom had long-term care, we had to separate my parents after 60 years of marriage. Now, as hard as it was on the kids, it was tear-jerkingly hard to watch my father go through this because he'd been the one taking care of Mom. So that got done. And now I'm flying once a week to Houston to close down their house. Again, as a child, when you're going through your parents' things, like, or their pictures, like dad, his World War II Navy photo, or their wedding photo, or mom's first stole, her little mink stole, or her mink jacket, and you remember times that she wore it. I mean, it it's a really hard experience. And it's tough, but somehow or another, you do it. But during this entire process where I'm getting a realtor, I'm getting them into assisted living centers, I'm just sort of stepping over myself. I was constantly searching for an organization that I could call and just say, how do I do this? But as it turns out, I have to call Medicare for Medicare issues, Social Security for Social Security issues, insurance for insurance issues, doctors for medical issues. And even then, before they would even talk to me, I then had to give them my power of attorney that made me able to speak for mom and dad, and their living will and healthcare surrogacy that allowed me to speak for mom and dad in the medical field. So now we're 7 days into finally being able to talk. And then everything's just so confusing. And by confusing, anyone who's over 65 and on Medicare has received these bills. But they're not bills. They're like 5 or 6 pieces of paper. And in the right-hand corner, they say, this is not a bill. But it looks exactly like a bill because it talks about all the procedures or doctors you've seen. And yet, guess what? It says this is not a bill and this is how much you may owe. And for someone like my father at the age of 90, having to navigate may owe or not owe, oh my gosh. I mean, dad, paid his bills every 30 days. So it's almost impossible, in my opinion, but I've never been 90, for someone 90 or over to actually take care of a partner, no matter how beloved, who is in fact ill, whether it's Parkinson's, whether it's multiple sclerosis, whether it's dementia. The stress involved will kill you. And there are studies that show that the caretaker often dies before the patient. And we, the children, weren't willing to accept that. But what really hit me as I'm going through this process is I am a lawyer. And I'd been practicing at that point for about 25 years. And I couldn't figure some of this stuff out. So how could mom and dad, college graduates, yes, but mother has no cognitive function, and dad's just trying to get through the day. How can they do that? So, okay, we get it done. Mom's in memory care. Dad is living in the basement of my brother had a basement apartment. Dad's living there. We got him an extra couple $1,000s a month, and we had someone come in 3 or 4 times a year. We got the couple thousand from the Veterans Administration. They have programs for their elder vets. And I was like, okay, I think we've calmed down. Well, guess what? We hadn't calmed down. I was really wrong. First, I take them to their doctor. Now, this doctor is a gerontologist. This is in Atlanta, Georgia, and she's a doctor through their insurance company. And she sees them, and she sees them together. And so for Medicare, that means for each person, she gets to bill 15 minutes. That's how much you bill to see a patient through Medicare. So in 15 minutes, she's now seeing both of them. So she's actually billing 30 minutes, but that's neither here nor there. Now, here is this doctor. She knows mother has dementia issues. And so she says to Mom, Charlotte, how are you? I mean, yeah. In other words, she yells at my mother like, hello, she's already demented. I don't think yelling at her is going to do anything. And then with my father, he told her he was feeling dizzy. So you know what she did? She sent him to the emergency room. Now this is a medical doctor. Okay, you're feeling dizzy. What could be the issues for feeling dizzy? Dad and I sat in the emergency room where he could catch anything for 2 or 3 hours. They finally see him, hook him up to an IV, and in 45 minutes he's fine. And you know why? Because Dad was dehydrated. Now, no one told Dad he was dehydrated. They just let him go. I only know this because 48 hours later, Dad was in the same hospital, in the same emergency room at 11 p.m. at night, and I was with him. And because he had come back within 72 hours, they hook him up to the same IV. He starts feeling better. But this time, they have to keep him for observation because if they don't, Medicare doesn't pay. So I fired Mom and Dad's doctor, which means you have to change insurance companies, just in case. Okay, now here's the other thing I learned. Just because someone has dementia, guess what? That doesn't mean they're not as smart as they have always been. Mother was a summa cum laude graduate of American University. And she did not want to be in her memory care unit. She did not want to be anywhere other than where she wanted to be. Now, memory care units are locked facilities. You have to have a little code to get in and out. Do you think that stopped my mother? You know what she did? She pulled the fire alarm. And even though the fire alarm is supposed to have this whole different way of letting these people who have dementia and Alzheimer's and Parkinson's, they're supposed to do something different. The doors all fly open. And guess who escaped? Yeah, Charlotte. She was right out of there. She was on this huge street in Atlanta, Georgia, waving down cars because she just wanted out. Get me out of here. In whatever clothes they had her in a memory care unit. All right. So the good news is a very nice driver called the police because he figured Mom belonged in a nursing home. In an assisted living center, and he knew there was one close by. The police come and get my mother, take her to that assisted living center, and they did not even realize she was missing. I'm sorry. So, because Mom and Dad had a lawyer for a daughter, they paid us $7,000 for that inconvenience, and we found another place for Mom to go. The bad news was this place, again, remember, both Mom and Dad had long-term care with a very reputable company. This one really shocked me. So this place was expensive, and we're paying through long-term care her monthly bill, and then all of a sudden the lady calls me, the owner calls me, and she says, they said they're not paying this month. I'm like, they're not paying this month? So I called the insurance company and they said, oh yeah, no, she's run out of long-term care. I said, what are you talking about, running out of long-term care? So here's what I did. And I hope this can help somebody who's in any kind of dilemma with insurance companies. What I did is I said, you're wrong. Mother has plenty of days left on her insurance. Which meant I had to go through every monthly invoice. I had to count the days because some days are 28, 29, 30, 31, because they pay by the day. I went through that for 18 months, and I was right. And while doing that, I also counted the days that they don't pay. In other words, if you have long-term care, there's usually a 90 or 100-day time frame in which, after you file the claim, in which Medicare pays, which all of which is fine. But even then, they had counted my father's 100 days wrong. So here is how I got to this company. I want to say this was about 2016. Yeah, 2016, late 2015. And I got on premium LinkedIn. Well, first I constructed a letter and explained and had all the exhibits. I constructed a letter explaining what they had done wrong, excuse me. And I sent it to the CEO. Well, in Premium LinkedIn, what you can do is you can go to the company, which I did, and find out who the big shots in the company were. Anyone who had CEO, senior VP, or chief medical officer or assistant chief medical officer who was listed in LinkedIn Premium, I sent that letter to. Within 24 hours, I had a phone call, and within 7 days, they had they had given me $15,000, which I have to say, now I would have never settled for that, but it was my first one. So nevertheless, during this conversation, this is what they say to me. You know, Miss Reaves, this never happens. Well, what they meant was, we never do this. But you and I both know that what never happens is that they get caught. And they did get caught. Now, here is the bad news. My father was in an assisted living center, and because of Social Security, long-term care insurance, and his veterans aid and assistance, the kids, my brother and I, basically, my sister couldn't be a part of this, but my brother and I could keep him in the assisted living center. But now that mother's memory care had run out, her long-term care had run out, we couldn't afford to keep her in a memory care unit. A memory care unit is anywhere from $600 to $6,500 a month, which would have been, $11,000 or $12,000 a month. And that's how much it costs to have both parents in an assisted living center, unless they're sharing a room, of course, which mom and dad weren't. And we had to put mom and dad in a nursing home. And I don't know how to describe how an educated woman, I was a lawyer, my brother was a senior vice president with a Fortune 500 company. We both thought we were doing well, but you know what? We couldn't afford that for mom and dad. We couldn't afford even just mom's part of it if dad's was paid for. And I have to say that the most difficult day of my life was when I placed all of mom's belongings in a little cardboard box. Her whole life, this summa cum laude graduate, this Pan Am, they called them stewardesses then, but she was a Pan Am flight attendant, a mother of 3 adult children, all with college degrees, a grandmother with doting grandchildren, and a woman who'd lived abroad all her life, who had broken barriers no other women had. And now she is going to the best nursing home I can find, but still, it's one cardboard box, and she is going to have in that room a roommate she has never met. And did I hate it? I hated it. But was there anything else I could do? There wasn't. And that was when I knew my calling was parent your parents and the elderly, because there are too many people like mom and dad. And since I've been in business, I have met all sorts of them, and it gives me great honor, honestly, just as it did with mom and dad, to serve those who have already served us. So, and let me also say that I talk a lot to my seniors and to their children that just because you're 70 or you're 80 or you're 90 doesn't mean you've lost your mind. It doesn't, you might be a little bit slower, but that's just a physical thing. If the mental is still there, you're still as good. And I have one of my listing agent for my company, the person I go to when I'm selling someone's house, um, is over 80, and she's constantly at the top in her real estate firm. Uh, One of my best friends in Baltimore, Maryland, is still running her PR firm, and she does the circus every year. So age is not a barrier. It's how we treat those with age that's the barrier. And that, ladies and gentlemen, is how Parent Your Parents got started. And you can find me at parentyourparents.com or right here at Miami Community News. I write a column for them. And 786-418-3303. And next week, Raquel Regalado and I are going to talk about senior issues in Miami-Dade. So thank you so much for joining me today. It was such a pleasure to be able to tell my story. Thank you.